Okay, what I'm trying to do today and in the following days is just to record some of the funny stories about growing up in the Duffy household, and I want to do it before I lose my memory or something else happens to me. Um, but these stories are, they're funny, but I also they're a setting. There's a time and a place, but I want to kind of give you the background so you know the setting a little bit better, right? Okay. Now, I was born in 43. Jimmy was born in 44. So that's we're basically the 40s and the 50s is growing up. By the time I went off to high school, it was 1957, and then I graduated in 61 and went to college. So, but the stories go through. The stories go right up to today. Uh, but we, the early memories, right? When my mom and dad got married, World War II had just started, and Dad went off and joined the Navy, and we moved in. Me and my mom and Jimmy moved in with my grandmother. So we lived in my grandmother's house until I was about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And then we moved into a house in Singac. Now, let me give you a sense of the town first. The town of Little Falls was really divided into three sections. The town ran west to east, and the one border on the north side was the Passaic River, and on the other side, man, it was only about less than a mile wide. This town on the other side, it was about 3 miles long and about a mile wide, and it was in a valley, so the river was on the one side, and then everything else around it went uphill. So and it was about 6,000 people then, maybe 5 or 6,000 people, so it wasn't very populated. Um, and the town was broken into pieces, kind of. Okay, in other words, where we lived was a place called Singac. That was the section of the town, Singac, and that was basically a lot of Eastern European, Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, Czechs, etc. And there was a church there, a Russian Orthodox church, St. John's. And then it was right on the highway, Route 23. St. John's was a block off the highway, and my grandmother lived right on Route 23, which is only a blacktop road then. But she lived right on it, and she was a block from church. And then up the street, maybe half a mile, was Holy Angels, and that was a Catholic church, and that's where we went to church. And then the main street cut right across there. Now, if you went east on Main Street, you'd go from Singac into Little Falls. And Little Falls proper was a lot of German and Dutch. That's who settled the town. They really owned most of the real estate. And on the way to Little Falls, you passed Beatty's Mill on the left. And Beatty's Mill was a rug and carpet manufacturer. Big, big place. I mean, geez, the mill just went on and on and on for blocks. Right on the river. And then on the other side of the river was where my dad worked. That was the Passaic Valley Water Company. So those two were pretty big employers in the area. And now when you get downtown Little Falls, that's where the bank was, etc. Yeah, movie theater. So the Oxford movie theater. I'll tell you about that one too. Anyway, that was, again, German, Dutch. They owned most of the land. And then as you went out of town towards New York, you went up a hill. Okay, Great Notch Hill. And on one side of the hill, on the left side going up, was an all Italian neighborhood, big Italian neighborhood. And then on the other side of the street, okay, going up the hill, was basically upper middle class, nice homes, people who kind of made it a little bit better. Well, a lot of people worked in New York City, etc., but nice places. Freddie Farmer, a guy I worked for, he owned a liquor store in town. He lived up there. And, anyway, a nice area. And now in that town, little town like that, we had 6 churches. And it was, every denomination you could think of. I'm saying we had a Russian Orthodox, a Catholic, we had Episcopalian, we had United Methodist. I'm not sure what the other churches were, and none of them were real big. Holy Angels was the biggest church because it was on the highway and it covered a big, big area. People came from a long way around. So anyway, but Holy Angels Church was a small church. It was a little wooden, structure. I'll tell you about. I was an altar boy. I was an altar boy at Holy Angels Church. Anyway, so that gives you a kind of a layout of the town that we grew up in. Now, the house we grew up in was it had been a shop of some kind. Okay, it wasn't purpose built to be a house. It was a shop. It was right on Main Street. Right next to us was a dry cleaner, and then that's on one side. If you're looking at the house, on the right side was a dry cleaner. We're here, and then you had a driveway, our little, lawn. Then you had a field for about 150 feet, maybe, or something like that. And we played in there a lot. And then there was another little dirt road that went back to a little mill back in the back, and to Beatty's, or not Beatty's, but the Holmberg Lumber on this side, big lumber yard. And then the Baldwins lived next. So you had their yard and then the Baldwins' house. The Baldwins had 5 kids. That was our nearest neighbor on that side. And on the other side, where the dry cleaner was, they had some property, ran about 200 or 300 feet, maybe, a pretty big piece of property. And then there was another, it's like a steel fabrication place, okay, down there, and a couple of other car body shop, etc. So there was really, our side of the street was pretty much commercial. Because then when you got to the railroad tracks, it was Johnny Porter's house was right on the track, right on the railroad tracks. That was the only house between us and the tracks. And then when you crossed the tracks, it was a foundry. And then after the foundry, there was one little house. Rulin had a house. And then there was Holy Angels Church, and that went all the way up to the corner. There was a block of little stores right on the corner. But that was it. So from the corner, 4 corners there, where there was Route 23 and Main Street, all the way down to our house. There was only a couple houses on our side of the street. Anyway, that's kind of the layout. Now, our house was a slab, built on a slab, and I said it wasn't purpose-built to be a house. So in the back, it had a garage. You could drive in from the side. So you come in the driveway, you had to turn and go into the garage. The only time that garage was ever used was when I was working on a car. My father used it we had tools in there, and we used to make Christmas ornaments. I'll talk about that later on. But anyway, it was used for that. Then you come in the back door of the house. The house, no central heat. We had a big kerosene stove in the kitchen. When you walked in the back, you're right in the kitchen. On the left side of the kitchen, there was a bedroom. That's where all the boys slept in that one. 2 bunk beds. We slept in there. And it didn't even have a door. It just had like a curtain. That was it. And the floor was, again, it was a concrete slab, but it had that asbestos asphalt, tiling on it, little blocks. And then when you went further out of the kitchen, as soon as you stepped out of the kitchen, a little hallway. On one side was a bathroom, one bathroom. On the other side was my mom and dad's room, and the girls slept in there until they were bigger in the same room. And then you went a little hallway, and there was a living room right after that. That was the front of the house. On one side of the living room, there was a small room that had the switch box, a fuse box and stuff in there, and some storage, etc. Later on, that actually became my bedroom for a while, so a small room. And in the living room, we had another kerosene heater. So we had a kerosene heater in the kitchen, kerosene heater in the living room. Bathroom, we took a bath, no heat. And then on the other side of the living room, we had a little room that my mom used. She had a dress shop for a while. And later on, my dad tried to put a half bath in the back of that room as we grew up. So that was the house. If you went out the front door of the house, so when you're in the living room, on the left side was the front door. If you went out the front door, maybe 3 or 4 steps, and you're in Main Street. You're in the street. We're right there, on a street, like a commercial piece of property. You know what I mean? And that's that was it. That was a Duffy residence. Kind of 2 bedrooms, and all those kids, 2 bedrooms. And again, that little room served to, put a couple of the little girls in there, and then later on was my room. And then my mom's dress shop eventually got turned into another bedroom, eventually. So anyway, it gives you a sense of where things were, the size of the place, etc. And hopefully that's a good setting. All right, now I'll some of the stories will evolve after that. All right, take care.